Hey guys, and welcome. This is week 2 of the review. We did our first one. It was so good to see some of the feedback and some of the views. That was a lot of fun.
It was good fun.
So we decided, hey, let's do it again.
Come on.
So we got it here, and we got Suenio, who spoke an amazing message on Sunday about budgeting and planning.
Exciting.
Let's go exciting / overwhelming.
Okay.
Those are the two thoughts here, but Swin put in such a great package on Sunday, made some things really easy to understand, and really gave us some thoughts to think about and some things that we can move forward on. So I'd love to kind of pick your brain for the next 20-25 minutes, hopefully make things a bit clearer. I know we've chatted to some people who actually started budgeting since Sunday, some of the guys here in the office.
Yeah.
They were that shook by the message
Shaken.
that they've started to budget. So it was an amazing Sunday. And one of the first things that I wanted to touch on was obviously last week we spoke about money being spiritual. So this week you've kind of taken it further, and you've spoken about the personal aspects of finance and how that applies and how we can make that better. You coined a phrase.
I coined a phrase
in the beginning there that I wouldn't necessarily say was catchy, which we like to look
Definitely
for.
not.
But the phrase you coined was out of control financial anxiety.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily sound like something anybody wants to have.
No.
But it sounds like quite a few people do have it.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
Yeah. Well, firstly, I never planned to say that. The fact that I'm coining it. But I was watching Lego Ninjago a long time ago, and that scene where Garmadon comes and the reporters, like, he coins a phrase, which I thought was hilarious. And I always wanted to say that in church.
What, coin a phrase?
Coin a phrase, yeah.
Well, you said it.
Ben Shepherd, coin phrase. But no, out of control financial anxiety, it is something that people feel about their finances, is that we don't know where the money's going.
Yeah.
We feel out of control. We don't know how to feel empowered about money.
Yeah.
And we think that if it's just more money is going to help us to feel in control.
Yeah.
It's not really about how much you have. It's about, do you know what's happening with what you've got?
Yeah.
And in the same way, if I didn't know where Samuel was, I would feel quite anxious about that.
Sure.
So if he was out running in the street or playing in the park and I wasn't there, or Lara wasn't there, I would feel quite anxious about that. But if I can see him, I already feel way more empowered, way more in control, and way more confident that I can respond to whatever happens.
Yeah.
And I think that's certainly how I felt with my finances. Just knowing where it's going and gave me a certain level of confidence and control about my finances.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily the nicest picture that I looked at, but the mere fact of that I knew what it was.
Yeah.
Instantly, like Lara and I, the first few times we put a budget together, we said, wow, like this is not a great picture, and but I said, you know what, the amazing thing is, at least we know what we can do about this now. And so we don't have that out of control financial anxiety anymore.
Yeah. We're going to speak about planning and budgeting. We're going to speak about that. But I think just on that thought, it's so hard to plan ahead just for your life if you actually don't really know what you're working with.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're going to have come week 3 of the month, or what kind of holiday you can take, or what you can do. It's so difficult to do that when you're not too sure what you're working with. So for me personally, when I started kind of looking at where my money was going, it was an extremely scary and actually unpleasant experience because I was never tracking it. I quickly realized that I spent way too much money on food and I spent way too much money on clothes.
Yeah.
But the thing that happens is that you spend money.
Doesn't look it.
No, well, hey, I'm not saying it's good clothes. Hey, but anyway. Then the thing that happens is that you might spend so unruly for the first 2 weeks of the month, for example, and then for the next 2 weeks you're left with stuff that you want to do that you actually can't do, incomplete stuff. And you actually talk about that as well, and you share this great picture that you actually threw up on the screen. So hopefully we can actually throw that up on here in case you weren't at the sermon. What was that picture that you showed of something that is incomplete? And explain that, would you mind?
Yeah, we showed the picture of the highways in Cape Town that are incompleted, and they're now a monument, which is bizarre, but we just make the best out of what we've got.
That we do.
And just how the city of Cape Town ran out of money to complete those highways. And now they're looking at different strategies and things. But the whole thing is that we start out without having a proper plan of how we can finish the building. So Jesus tells us the story about, hey, if you're going to build a building, surely you look at how much it's going to cost you,
so
you can have enough money to finish the building. Otherwise, you'd look stupid, you know. And
but I think we all look stupid a lot of the time.
Yeah, you know, and you don't have the money to. All of a sudden, you lived large in the beginning, and then the money runs out, and either the bank has to get involved, or you know, you're drinking water at the restaurant. You know, it's like that episode of Friends where Rachel's like, she orders a side salad, and the server's like, on the side of what? It's like a glass of water. You know, that can easily happen. But when you got like a plan together, you can monitor it. And the thing about a budget that I never realized is that you actually have to track your budget at least every week. You know, every time you go out, you need to know how much you're going to be able to spend. Because you can have a budget that you refer to, but if you don't look at it every week or regularly, you never know where you are. It's like I've talked about, it's the GPS. You know, you need it to bring you back onto course and to say, you got to recalculate. Rerouting. You know? So I mean, like, even with our budget now, we've gotten to a place where we don't break it down too much per week. We just know it's happened once or twice where we're in the last week and we had no money for that. So we just scratched around in the cupboard and made very creative meals for the last few days of the month because we want to be disciplined to stick into our budget.
I want to jump on that. Discipline and stewardship were two of the words that you used on Sunday, which I think are very important. And the one picture that got stuck in my head was when you're talking about God's plan to bless us.
Yes.
And he really wants to bless you, but I don't think, and it was so powerful, it's not always a rescue mission.
No.
And if we can't grow in these abilities to be disciplined and good stewards of what God gives us, it almost feels like he's got to rescue us most of the time. And how often by his grace does he do it?
Totally.
I mean, over and over and over again. But how awesome would it be to be able to live a life and have a plan where God doesn't have to rescue it, but just bless something that already is kind of solid. And already something that is there. So just kind of off kind of what you spoke about, but just from a personal thing, when you started budgeting and you spoke about it, you said it was a hectic experience. You said that it involved a lot of chocolate. And you also gave some other encouragements to people who are budgeting for the first time. But just the thing on discipline, would you consider yourself quite a disciplined guy in other areas, and maybe money was one that you struggled with? Would you say that discipline was something that you've had to grow in over the years? How does someone get more disciplined? Because I feel at the sense of kind of all of this, I mean, making a budget and then referring to it a lot, that takes discipline.
Yes.
What would be a tip or a nugget on just kind of growing in discipline? Really?
Yes. Yeah. You know, I wish you could just almost take a tablet and be a disciplined person.
I've looked for that tablet.
To be honest, I've never been disciplined. In some areas, you know, the areas that I want to be disciplined in, I am. But a lot of the time, I have to work really hard at it, and it's like you grow by 1% every time. But I think there's some things from a guy called Craig Rochelle that I've been listening to, and he said something a while ago, and I'm going to probably get this wrong, but he said that discipline is choosing what you want most over what you want now. And for me, that's always coming back. And I hit a real pain point specifically in my finances. And I think you either change because you want to change, or you change because of the pain. You know, and pain is like, sometimes you have to actually hit the pain point. To say, you know what, this is as far as I don't want to live this way anymore. And we had that moment last year, middle of the year. Just, you know, it feels like we're going around the same mountain, and I don't want to. I want to get control over this thing. And even Dave Ramsey talks about you've got to have this gazelle intensity. This focus. Otherwise, you're not going to change anything. And it's the same, like in every area. Do you want to eat healthier? Do you want to exercise? Do you want to read? Those are areas that you need to discipline yourself in. And until you feel that pain, you probably won't change. And so it's just a lot of trial and error. Like the first few budgets we put together were bad. They were just bad. They were wrong. And, you know, I realized how much money I spend on coffee. You know, like, and that was just, and then I just had to say, you know what I want most is I want to have control over my finances. And so I want that more than I want my takeaway coffee.
Sure.
And I want that more than I want Netflix. I want that more than I want other things. And so we've just been choosing that, and I think we're getting better at it every time. And discipline is a muscle. The more you exercise it, the bigger it gets. And everybody else looks, oh man, that must be so natural for you. No man, I work really, really hard. I envy people or look up to people who have that discipline of training every day. Oh man, I want that. But I have to hit that pain barrier as well.
First.
Yeah.
Waking up in the morning and saying, that's not
Like you. I mean, you're a frisk, big young man.
Listen,
you know?
hey, this is the finished product right here. I'm gonna give lessons out. No, listen, I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And I think the whole idea of discipline is one that I think we can all get better at.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make my bed every day.
Yeah.
It's just gonna sound small, and I can't believe I'm putting that on mine.
Yeah.
But it's just a small discipline, thing that you want to get better at. And I don't think there's one big thing you can do that makes you a disciplined person.
No,
It's probably small things over a period of time that help people get better.
Didn't you read a book or listen to something on Atomic Habits or
Habits? Yeah.
What was that?
So what I took so much out of that was, it's also Craig Rochelle. He's speaking about habits, and for me, I also don't really consider myself a disciplined person. Like you said, in some things that really you might be super interested in, and you're like, cool, I'm gonna do my best to be disciplined here. But he really spoke about how small things that he had put in his life, he would choose one habit a year.
Yes.
And then he would go for it.
Brilliant.
And Craig Rochelle is leading a phenomenal church.
Totally.
He's a significant leader. I would think that this guy was speaking about just big things, reading big books and or journaling every night on Leviticus and all this stuff. But he said one of his first habits that he started was actually flossing. Yeah. And I thought, wow, that's strange. Why such a small thing? And he said it was the habit. Yes, he wanted to floss, but he said it was more about he wanted to teach his body that he'll do something that he knows is good for him. Yes. But he's also willing to do something that he doesn't want to do. Yes. And so he said, I'm going to start. I don't want to floss, but I know it's good for me, and I really don't want to do it. But I want to teach myself a lesson. I want to teach my body a lesson. And I think you can almost take the same principles into budgeting.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Because we might not want to do it. I think sometimes, what's the word? It's something is bliss. It's whatever. To not know sometimes is often better than knowing. Yes. It's like you're saying, you're seeing the thing for the first time, the budget for the first time, it can be often overwhelming. Totally, yeah. For me, I often live in that space. I'm like, I'd rather just not know what's happening and be stoked in that
Head in the sand, ostrich moment.
But he was kind of just like, hey, make yourself aware and then you can make the appropriate change. It's not always easy. And that's been such a big shift for me. So I'm almost more prepared to try something new, no matter how hard it might be. But just kind of this whole thought of discipline and making things better.
It's really good because that's exactly what translates into budgeting. Yeah. Is that you might not like it, and it's not always fun, but you get fitter and you get better at it as you keep going. And so if you just stick to it for 3 months, you're going to find it becomes a more natural part of your rhythm. It never becomes easy, but it becomes part of your value. It becomes part of, you need to have this done. And like flossing, it has a knock-on effect. And the thing is, you'll never become financially fit until you do a budget. And it's like, when we talk about training, if you can just get off the couch, you already have a head start on everybody else that's sitting on the couch. So if you want a head start on your finances, put a budget together. You got a head start. It might be a draft, it might be a work in progress, but you're moving things forward.
With any good habit you want to start, there's obviously some bad habits. Totally. That you're going to want to stop. You dropped one line that I love. It's just act your wage.
Act your wage. Dave Ramsey.
Took people Dave coin it, but it's Dave Ramsey. And it took some people a while to catch that one. I got it immediately, obviously.
No, well,
shame. Some people just.
You were in the front row.
I was in the front row. I love that, and I think even for a lot of people, just this whole topic of act your wage. But I think it goes even deeper into the culture of kind of comparison.
Yes,
that we're in at the moment, where you can turn onto any social media platform and you can almost get an idea of where someone your age needs to be. Yes. With your job, with your family, and you can. I think that's something that the enemy will use to kind of just disillusion people to not start and to not move forward and to not try stuff. Yeah. But this whole idea of act your wage, kind of just moving forward in what you've got right now and using with what you've got right now. How important do you think that is? How important do you think it is that regardless of where other people are at, maybe at your age or your season, but to be just totally disciplined in where you're at? Yeah. What do you think about that?
I always think of the story about trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
You know, trying to please people you don't like with money you don't have. Or that's how the saying.
No, yeah.
And trying to keep up to their lifestyle and whoever they are. And there's been lots of times when, you know, Lara and I've made decisions based on our convictions, and we don't regret that one bit. And God's been so good to us. But we've had lots of times when we've, you know, gone to look. We see what people are driving. We see other people's houses, and these are guys that can afford it. So it's not guys that are living outside their means.
No.
And we just go. We had those moments of like, oh man, we would love this. You know, this would be so amazing.
It's so human, isn't it?
It is human, yeah, and it's like it with everything. But comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
And so I think it's good to know where people are at, and so you can stay relevant to culture. And so you don't want to become, you know, dressing like we dressed 40 years ago, or, you know.
Churn up butter in the garden.
Exactly. We want to live relevant,
No
culturally
offense to
relevant.
the people who do that, by the way.
Yeah, the all 5 people who are watching this right now. We want to be culturally relevant and fit into society. But if we always keep looking at what other people have, we're always going to try and match their level. And we don't know their story. We don't know what's going on in their life. And so it's trying to put this picture of, hey, we've got our lives together. But actually underneath, it's not on a solid foundation. Like if anything bad should happen, like there is so much stress and anxiety to keep that facade up. But if we could do what maybe our parents or our grandparents did, where we took an extra 10 years to build ourselves up, it would be a lot stronger foundation that we would have. And we would have less anxiety, less worries. Yeah, we might be progressing in life a little bit slower, but at least it's healthier.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you're right.
And that whole picture of the bamboo always, it's like a perfect picture of I think what God's trying to form in us. How a bamboo, when you plant bamboo for the first 3 years, you see nothing. Absolutely nothing. And then in like just a few months, it shoots up to its full height. And it's the same with our financial life. It's the same with our spiritual life. If we focus on building a solid foundation first, then we will get fruits of it later. Instead of trying to have like big fruit, small foundation, you know.
Yeah. Listen, everybody is an overnight success for us.
Yes, yeah. It just took him 20 years to get there.
But we see him, he's there at the top.
Totally.
So I think it's always just to be kind of...
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying?
No, I was just thinking, you mentioned act your wage. And I think it's so appropriate because we're trying to be older than what we are.
Exactly.
And then we ask God for a bailout. And that's what kids do.
Yeah.
Kids ask their parents for bailouts.
Yeah.
And you know, it's cute when your baby is crawling or taking their first step. You know, it's cute when babies like, oh, look, they're moving forward. So cute. But it's never cute if a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old is crawling.
Yeah.
And that's what we do financially.
Sure.
And it's not a knock on, hey, to pray and ask God for provision. I pray for provision every day.
Yeah.
And God has rescued us countless times.
Yeah.
But a light switch came on to me reading the scriptures on stewardship, which is doing what you best with what you got, acting your wage.
Yeah.
And it came to a point of, you know what, God is always going to try rescue me, but at some point he has to be a loving father that says it's time to learn to walk. And for me that translated financially. It's like, you know what, it's God has supplied, he has rescued, and he's going to do it again, but he wants me as his son to begin to walk. You know,
That's
and to
really
become
good.
stronger on the inside.
That's very good.
And that's what he wants for all of us, you know.
God can be very practical sometimes.
Yeah. I like you.
Practical.
Could there be a game plan, a strategy, God? Like, what is step 1, 2, 3?
Well, let's move forward. You spent a lot of the message, which I thought was extremely helpful, with the nitty-gritties of planning and budgeting.
Yeah.
And you even gave an example of a budget, which we'll talk about a bit later on.
Cool.
But you gave some really great points on why we need a plan. You said budgeting provides direction, it provides accountability, and it also provides peace of mind.
Yes, yeah.
Would you mind talking to me a bit more? I think we spoke a bit about direction. We spoke about the GPS and the rerouting and the rerouting and the rerouting that we need, which constant reference to the budget will give you.
Yeah.
And it'll show you where you're out of line. The idea of accountability, how a plan, a written plan, an actual budget and an Excel sheet or whatever it is that you can look at.
Yeah.
How does that help you with accountability?
Yeah.
If you mind explaining.
Yeah, absolutely. I think right off the beginning, like if you're single, you could consider asking someone who you trust to check in with you on your finances. But when it's written down, you see if you've overspent or underspent. Like if you've got a vague idea of how much you want to be spending, you can always rationalize yourself, and it's always vague. So if you're over by 10 Rand, it's no big deal because it's in the ballpark.
Yeah.
But when it's written down, you go, okay, it's over. It's definitely over, or it's under. And so on the inside, you kick against those numbers, and you're like, oh man, I keep falling short with this. I've got to get right in this area. But if it's not written down, you give yourself way too much leeway, way too much freedom to be, that's fine, don't worry. Because if you go over that area, you need to go under somewhere else.
If it's red there, it's going to be green somewhere.
Yeah, exactly, And when we're not checking the budget, it's not holding us accountable, we kind of forget what we spent. I don't know if this is but for me, I'm like, did I buy that?
Yeah.
Was it this month or last month that I bought it?
It says you mentioned waves of rash decisions.
Totally, yes.
That actually happen in an instant.
Yes. Yeah.
Where I think definitely for me personally, the proud new owner of a white hoodie from H&M now, which
you feel good about. I feel good.
It looks great.
You had the money for it?
I had the money for it there.
This is your intervention on
camera. But it says it's those rash decisions that it's almost when you've got the accountability of the budget, you almost have a new weapon to fight against those.
Absolutely.
Because if you reference the budget before, or if you had a look at it the week before, the night before, and you can see that, hey, a lot of my areas are in the red right now, maybe that rash decision wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
The day after. So even from that point of view, I think that it's so helpful.
Yeah, it is.
In a huge way.
It is. And if you're married, then your spouse is looking at the same numbers you are. And we've got to get away from this, he or she does the finances, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
That's bad for your marriage.
Yeah.
It's bad for communication. It's bad for thinking everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
As guys, we're proud about, we don't want to let anybody know when things are going bad. So like the spouses have to know what's going on. They have to see the plan and what was the result. Because then it also empowers them to maintain and run with that budget. So it provides accountability. But on that whole thing of rash decisions, like I always spent I got money coming in. I used to do maths in my head, and I've got this money put aside. I got that. I think this money's coming in, so I'm going to buy this. And I stopped doing that now. I stopped saying, well, does my budget allow me to buy this? Never mind my income. Because I know that
it becomes irrelevant.
It does become irrelevant because I know that everything is pre-spent on paper, on purpose. And so if I get extra money, well, I know according to my plan where that money is going. It's already going into certain areas. So I don't have the freedom to spend it unless it's on paper. So I might do a new budget for the next month and spend that money, and that's fine. But I always think of this, like, I can pay for it, I just can't afford it.
Yeah.
I can.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah. Just because there's money coming, like, I'm just using debt to pay for something. But honestly, I can't afford that. And you know what the best feeling is in the world is when you've budgeted money for something like new clothes, and that's part of yours, and you can spend that guilt-free, no problem. And yes, I've done that. I felt great about it. It wasn't the most amazing clothes that I bought, but I felt good that I had that money available. I had permission to spend it. And that's what accountability is so strong, is that it's not just keeping you from bad things. It's actually empowering you to enjoy the good things. Because and then when you come under budget, oh my glory.
That's a good day.
It's jam for next month. You know what I mean? That's an extra set of clothes or whatever.
Totally. Listen, I think accountability, what it does also protects you.
It does, yeah.
Because if you're not accountable in one area, and let's say you go ahead and spend there, maybe that area would flourish, so to say, but then something else is going to pay the price. And another area is going to have the cost, so to say. And you dropped a great scripture. Proverbs 20 verse 25, it says, don't trap yourself by making a rash promise to God and only counting the cost later. The same can be said about your finances. Kind of just moving ahead, and we're going to start wrapping up, but on that first thing we spoke about, that out of control financial anxiety, you bring that in point 3, and you said, well, budgeting, kind of the whole out of control, the franticness, the anxiety. You saying that budgeting actually brings a peace of mind.
Yes, yeah.
And you speak about Murphy and
Yeah.
his law, and if it
Murphy,
can
man,
go wrong,
irks me.
he follows me around. If it can go wrong, it will go wrong.
Yeah.
You also speak about the idea of, and it's actually kind of an old school idea, this whole, I'm going to save this for a rainy day.
Very.
Because, well, Cape Town, it doesn't rain all that often.
Yeah.
Except for right now, it's raining.
Yeah.
But this whole saving for a rainy day idea and thought, it's old school.
Yeah.
But is it relevant today? Is that something we can still try our best to do today?
Yeah.
Because we want to know where everything is going. But just the idea of, I'm going to keep this aside because one day I'm going to need it. If if Murphy has made a little rental space for himself in your house, the washing machine goes, the fridge goes,
Yeah.
we're going to need it.
Yeah.
But how do we plan for that?
Yeah. It's a good question, and it's honestly, it's a journey that I'm on, because like Lara's the saver, big time.
Yeah.
And I've struggled with it over the years, but only now, since I've been seeing the power of that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, for me, I was quite relaxed. You know, things are never going to go wrong. You know, I'm like this optimist. Nothing's going to break. It's going to last forever. You know, and then when things do break, and because they do, and Murphy has a right to old riot in your life, we just go, it's cool. We'll just borrow money.
Sure.
I'll borrow from my mom, my dad. I'll borrow from the bank. I'll borrow from my overdraft.
Surely
credit
they'll
card.
understand. You need a fridge.
Yeah,
Or
totally.
your clothes your washing machine needs to work. Surely they'll
Absolutely.
understand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what credit cards are for your emergencies. No, that's how you get tied down in debt. Or I'll just take money from here and put it there. Yeah, but you're going to need money there, you know, and so we work ourselves into our problem. So if we can start planning in advance, just to start always getting to the habit of saving.
Sure.
You know, even if it's just
So small.
$500 a month. Honestly, that's what all we could save for a period of time.
Yeah.
And then all the extra money went in to build up a buffer.
Yeah.
So again, following Dave Ramsey's advice, in his book, The Total Money Makeover, which I recommend for everybody to read, it's absolutely brilliant. He recommends, before you do anything, before you look at solving your debt problem, before you look at investing, you do your budget first, and then you save. In America, they talk about $1,000 fast, but for me, I just took it. We'll save 10,000 rand as fast as we can.
Yeah.
You know, if you need to sell something, sell it, whatever the case is. But to get to that 10,000 rand buffer, because he says, well, it's so true. If something goes wrong, and you don't have that buffer, you're just going to go to debt again, and so get that buffer in place. Save it as fast as you can.
So you're not finished when debt's cleared.
No.
There's still work to be done because you like you're saying, you don't want to fall back into the place you've just worked yourself so hard to get out of.
No. So instead of trying to speed up your debt payments, first get a saving and then start your debt payment. Like pay your minimum balances, but don't try to crush your debt until you have a savings, because you're just going to increase your debt again.
Oh my God,
So always try to keep it at a buffer of 10. So if you use it, top it up again as much. And once you've got that topped up, carry on with your other plans. And what it's done is that instead of having to reach to the credit card or the overdraft or rearranging money, we've had money that's been set aside. So it's not massive, but you know, if there's anything happens with the car, I know that I've got something that I can use. I'm not going to stress out about it. And the same thing, you know, we've had some plumbing issues in our place. Well, that's fine. If it gets resolved, great. I've got money to cover that. I don't have to freak out about where am I going to get this money from. And so using that emergency savings is the first step. Just 10,000 rand, if you can get there, that's the best step. But then taking a level further, once you've got that, you can continue with saving. You can put money away for holidays. You can put money away for whatever. I mean, we've put together a savings fund, a small thing, again, because we want Samuel to have the option of studying at university one day. And I don't want to get to that day and go, oh, freak, what are we going to do? You know? So we're putting money away, and over the next 10 years, 15 years, there's going to be a considerable amount of money there. Excuse me. That might go to pay part of his fees or whatever, you know. And so we've got to have that rainy day mentality, because why do you need to save for a rainy day? Because it's going to rain. Murphy's gonna come.
Yeah.
And Murphy controls your life when you don't have savings.
That's extremely practical, and I think that's something we can all try to do.
Yeah.
It's not 10,000 rand by next week.
No.
It's increments that you can handle.
Yeah.
Whatever your income can allow. I think we can all save something. So I think that's extremely practical. Just to finish this whole thing off and tie it all together. You showed an amazingly funny clip that I laughed my head off twice.
Yeah.
About a budget, a specific type of budget called a zero-based budget. And this guy kind of speaks and talks us through this idea of a budget that we can all do on the idea of having kind of zero amounts of dollars or rands left in your account.
Yes.
Could you talk us through that?
Yes.
Just the idea behind that.
Yeah. Well, very simply, a budget is always what you're bringing in, what's your income at this, your take-home pay, and then you deduct all of your expenses off that, and generally you're left with a figure at the bottom of that.
Yeah.
Now, if you live with margin, you'll have more money left over, which is always a great feeling. But if you don't live with margin, like Bible says, in the home of the wealthy, of the wise, and the wealthy, there's a storehouse. There's more than enough.
Yeah.
But fools spend all that they get.
What they get, yeah.
And so if you spend all that you get, like me, you financial fool, that money's in deficit. And it's like you get freaked out, and that's fine. At least you can put a solution together. But what happens is, if you don't have a zero-based budget, if you have margin there, what do you think? Oh man, I can use this for whatever. It's like
do something,
and it becomes spontaneous, which is always fun. Yes,
and probably unnecessary.
But unnecessary, right? It's fun until you realize that you could have used that money better elsewhere.
Yeah.
For fun or for something quite practical.
Yeah.
And a lot of time we don't budget for saving. We don't we don't save for our next service, or budget for new clothes, or budget for a holiday. And so when you have a zero-based budget, you make sure that every rand is spent intentionally.
Sure.
I heard a pastor say that you've got to send out your rands like generals into war.
I love that.
Because there's an intention behind everything that you do.
That's great.
And when you live with that kind of focus and intentionality, you begin to see other solutions, and you begin to see other ways of using your money that's actually more fruitful. And yes, it might feel great to go spontaneously go on, have a steak and whatever. But how much better is it that you can put money aside, that you can enjoy that every month or every other month, and the extra money that you have that you maybe didn't know what to do with, you now have a purpose for that's going into building your future, your future wealth, not just now for the moment, And we all have those moments where we've got a little bit of extra margin, and you can have this, or you can upsize or supersize, or you can upgrade. I'm going to upgrade, and then you realize, oh wait, this was actually a once-off margin. The next month was a car. The next month was So just having that zero-based budget where all the money that goes out equals the money that comes in.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're spending all of that on expenses.
No.
It means that you're now saying, well, I'm looking forward to my future, and I'm putting away for car savings. I'm putting away to buy a new car, adding to my house, those kinds of things. So it gives you a more holistic picture of your financial life.
Yeah, I love that.
Is that helpful?
That's extremely helpful. And what I want to say as well, just kind of the theme, money is personal.
Yeah.
So get on a plan.
Yeah.
And that was the heart behind the message. And I believe the personal nature of money requires us to do the personal work of getting on a budget and putting a plan together. Are we going to be perfect at it from the beginning?
No,
Probably not. Is it going to require discipline and stewardship? Definitely, and the whole thing of a buffer as well. These are things that we can work on. But how money is requires this of us. That discipline and that budget. So you're gonna.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw in one last thought. That's like one of the team said, like, how do you actually start with the budget? Because as soon as you open up a budget, those of us, like, I'm not financially that savvy. I'm not great at math.
Yeah.
And so opening that budget can seem really, really intimidating, and it can be like, you know what, I'll do this next time. But just by writing down what you have, even if it's on a piece of paper to start with, and writing down all of your expenses, you know, it's gonna be hard, but you're gonna face the reality of where you're at and feel empowered to move forward. So just write it out as a draft, and it's gonna take 3 to 6 months to get good at this.
Yeah.
So give you let the pressure be off.
Yeah.
But when you were talking about preventing rash decisions, you know, we all get that moment where we want to buy something and it's a little bit more than what we can afford, and there's this wrestle on the inside of us, and you will become stronger and more empowered to make the right decisions when you let your budget determine what you want, not your feelings or your heart, right? Your heart is deceitful above all else. You know?
Yeah.
And it might feel restricting, but what is freedom? Freedom is having the right boundaries in place that you don't derail your life.
Yeah.
Because you just tie yourself up to another slave if you don't have boundaries.
Sure.
And so, making better decisions financially, hopefully for all of us.
Sure. You run from the restriction of a budget, but then you restrict yourself to something else.
Good. Coin the phrase. Hashtag.
Hashtag Phil Coetzee. You've got that. Well, listen, this is all we've got time for today.
That's great.
Thank you so much, Sven.
Yeah,
this has been
awesome.
brilliant. Just for anybody who's watching, we've actually got a draft of a budget that we'd love to send out. If you want it, you can email us here at View Church Sunningdale, just requesting that budget, and we'll send it out to you. There's no prior figures on there that you have to delete. We're going to give you all zeros there, and if it's your starting point, go for it. I think the most important step, what is the first one?
That's right.
So if this is something that has encouraged you to start budgeting, we're so excited for you.
Very
we
good.
believe this will bless you and really help you in your finances. But this has been amazing. Tune in next week. We're going to speak about Sunday, but hey, we can't wait to see you at church on Sunday. And remember, here we love God, we love people, we want to make a difference. God bless.
Cheers.